Hello, Scott here. Today I wanted to talk about the difference between banking in the United States and in the Philippines. In the United States, literally everybody has a bank account. If you are a legal resident in the United States, you have a bank account. You most likely do online banking, deposit your checks, do everything through your smartphone at home, and you literally never go to the bank unless you need, a certain amount of cash for some reason, or you have a transaction that you need to do that would, force you to go into the bank's office. Now, Philippines, whole different story. I don't know, but I can only speculate that somewhere between a third to, at the very most, a half of the population actually have a bank account. And, the reason for this is probably simple. Most people over there, don't have the wherewithal to have a bank account. They can't afford to have any money tied up in a bank. And quite simply, it just doesn't practically make any sense for them. The minimum requirement to open a bank account is 5,000 pesos. Some of them are closer to 10,000 pesos. So it's either somewhere between $100 and $200 is the minimum balance to keep your bank account open. So about 3 years ago, I encouraged Hannah to get a bank account opened, and she opened a bank account at BDO. And a week or so ago, when I was trying to send some money to her, I kept getting an error message back that her account number had changed. So I tried it 4 times actually, because it kept sending the same money and tied up my money for 4 different times, but it kept coming back as the reciprocant's account number doesn't match. All right. So I decided to try Remitly, one other transfer service. Same message came back. So I thought, well, there must really be a problem here. So I got a hold of her the next day, said, hey, go down to your bank, figure out what's going on with your bank account. All right. So she did. Went down to her bank. Turns out that the bank required 5,000 pesos to be in the bank, as a required minimum. And however, she had let it gotten down to about 3,000 pesos. So it was, under that by a few thousand pesos. Now, this account had been used, several times a month for deposits, withdrawals, an ATM card, everything for the last 3 years. So it isn't like it was an inactive account. It was an ongoing account. And what they did is they closed it down. Literally closed it down. So when she went down there to find out what was going on, they basically gave her 3,000 pesos and says, here you go, ma'am, sorry, but we closed your account down. And she said, well, can you reopen it? I said, well, no, you can't reopen this account. But, if you go to a different branch, you can potentially just open another account, which seems kind of ironic in itself, but that was their answer. So I said, well, having the American attitude about this whole thing, I said, well, you probably don't want to bank with that bank anyway, so maybe go search out a different bank. Well, 2 days later, after searching out another bank, I come to realize that most other banks wanted twice as much for the amount as the minimum balance. They wanted way more identification. They wanted other documents and stuff that were hard to obtain. That the reality was, the simplest thing was to go right back to the same bank, to a different office, different branch, and open up another account and reestablish another bank account. And that's what she did. Now, as an American, we look at that, it's like, what the hell? That is the strangest thing that you could ever imagine. For one, closing an account just seemed to be a very knee-jerk reaction to the situation. It wasn't like the account was overdrawn or delinquent. It was probably there for maybe a week that it had been less than the minimum. And in that time frame, they just looked at it and said, oh, we're going to close this down because there's not 5,000 pesos in it. Like I said, that would not happen, I don't believe, here in the United States unless you had taken a bank account and had it drawn down to near zero and it sat there for years and they were just tired of having it there with no activity. But this was an active bank account. Anyway, so, you know, that being a major difference just on people and their ability to get a bank account. So maybe touch on transferring money. If you're looking to transfer money internationally, you know, whether it's to the Philippines or any other country, there's some pretty good transfer companies out there. I predominantly use two different companies. One being Wise, used to be called TransferWise, now it's called Wise. The other one that I use is called Remitly. Like I said, there's a lot of companies that I can use. Those are the two that I use. When I travel in the Philippines myself, my actual bank will let me withdraw money over there, but the fees are kind of high. I actually have a Charles Schwab account, of which I can get money out of any ATM over there, and they will credit the ATM fees back to your account. So there's actually zero ATM costs to get money out of a local ATM in the Philippines. It's a great deal. You really can't beat that. So from the standpoint of when you're traveling, you know, obviously you always want to have several options. But if you have the ability to transfer money somewhere, you know, with Remitly, you could actually even transfer money to yourself, and you could pick it up at a Cebuano, an El Hurlier, I'm not sure how you say that, but a Palawan Pawn Shop's another one. I mean, those three money places are on every corner. There is prevalent over there is Jollibee. You can usually see, you know, stand at one Cebuano and look down the road, see the next Cebuano, just like being at a Jollibee. You can usually see the next Jollibee from that Jollibee, similar to a 7-Eleven. They are absolutely everywhere over there. So finding one, every little city has a Cebuano and El Hurlier, I guess. I don't know how that's really pronounced, but if you've been over there, you know what I'm talking about. They're in every city. Doesn't matter. Every little village has one. Mainly because money is transferred around over there as commonplace. You know, whether it's coming from outside the country or from one place inside the country to another, money is just wired all over there. But the reality is, if you're over there as a traveler, you want to have the ability to get money. So make sure your bank account is set up to where you can get money. Have a couple options there. Have the ability to transfer money. And if you've got a girlfriend or fiance or a wife or whatever there, if she has a bank account, then you can always transfer to her bank account and get money out that way. You know, that's one of the reasons we had to set this up, so we could always have access to getting money. So, you know, when you transfer money over there, it's interesting. Today is Hannah's birthday. I won't say how old Hannah is, honey. Happy birthday. But, so I did send her something today, a little extra. But it's interesting over there. You send, you know, a Filipino family some money, and what I find what they do with it most likely is go out and buy food. I'm I'm kind of chuckling about that because if you send any money here to your kids or whatever and they expect them to go buy food with it, they think you're nuts. But over there, you know, so much of their disposable income is spent on food. It was always spent on food, but now, you know, the circumstances of the last 2 years where, you know, the pandemic, if you will, has significantly raised food costs, and, you know, their disposable money doesn't go near as far as it used to. So, you know, to make ends meet, they're eating, you know, less, not necessarily less, but they're eating less meat, less costly things, stretching their food budget, if you will. So when they have a little extra money, the first thing they might go do is go out and buy a chicken or some pork so the family can experience having a little meat or protein, you know, in their diet. Yeah, I'd like to see an American that really experienced that. You know, we take that for granted, I guess. Anyway, so as far as banking, maybe to put an exclamation on the end of this, the key things to get out of this is have several options. You know, Charles Schwab is great, not just from the standpoint of getting money when you're traveling, but it's a brokerage firm. You can have stocks, buy options, have a savings account, IRAs, the whole 9 yards. It's got it all. It's a great thing to have opened up, checking account, savings account, you name it, brokerage account. It's the way to go. Just having the ability to get your money overseas, not paying any transaction fees, just makes it all the better. And if you have another bank account that you would normally use, to have that as a backup, and, you know, 2 or 3 ways to transfer money, and you should be good. There really should be no reason that you can't, you know, get money in the Philippines. You know, obviously you want to have a credit card or two, but for the reality, you know, the credit card is just used to book hotel rooms and other things that you may do while you're in the Philippines. You know, credit, debit cards aren't commonplace over there. In the bigger cities, you can use them at, you know, hotels, grocery stores, you know, in the mall. But other than that, cash is king. So you pretty much have to walk around with cash to buy and transact like you want to. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that bit of information on the lack of tolerance that the Philippine banks have when you don't play by their rules.